Hello guys, welcome back to the third session as we go through the UNEB, which was done on 14th to 24. So analyzing item 3 and 4, item 3 and 4 are under section B, which is part 1. So part 1, we have item 3 and 4, and we construct them using these elements of constructs under the theme of data and probability. So under data and probability, we have the topics as captured below. We have graphs, set theory, data collection and display or presentation. We have matrices, probability. So under these, we basically, the item is constructed looking at some of the topics. They may not be all, but some. So as we analyze the UNEB item 3, item 3 says, James has been sent to a certain region to find out whether it is necessary to set up a new office for processing national identity cards, driving permits and passports. If the probability of a person having only one document is less than 50%, James randomly interviewed 75 people in that region. He found that 18 people did not have any of the 3 documents. 30 people had driving permits and 20 people had passports. The number of people who had both national identity cards and the driving permits only was twice those who had passports and driving permits but no national identity cards. 4 people had passports only, 3 had all the 3 documents, and 12 had driving permits only. James has to report about the number of people who have national identity cards, but he has something missing as the information. Under the tasks, we have part A. Help James to find the total number of people with national identity cards. Part B, determine if there is need for a new office in the region and give a reason for your answer. So under this part, you realize that under this scenario, you can look at the topics that are embedded in that scenario. The first topic in general is set theory. Then the second is that there is gathering of data. Data has been gathered, it has been collected. So we need to analyze it and display it. So in actual sense, that's why we are going to apply the set theory and then look on the way of how we have to display the data. When they talked of probability in the scenario, it is also part. So in actual sense, these are the 3 topics that are embedded in that item 3 as per that item. But any of these can be what? Can be chosen. We need to look at the 3 things that are being talked about. They are talking of national identity cards, they are talking of passports, and also driving permits. But actually, whichever variable that you have to bring in, it should be calibrated. So the first thing we need to do is to let N, D, and P represent the national identity cards. Then D is now for driving permits, and P representing passports, respectively. That is the first thing that we always have to to write down, defining the variables. If the variables are not given, we have to define them. So N is representing the national identity cards, D is representing the driving permits, and P is representing passports. So we have 3 items being talked about here. The next thing is to represent the information that is given before we analyze. The information that is given, we are talking of the distribution of what? Of documents. So we shall have a Venn diagram. We shall have a title for the Venn diagram. A Venn diagram showing the distribution of documents in the region. So we must have a title. Why should we have the title? It's because we are looking at how best we can display or represent the data. So the next thing is coming up with our Venn diagram. We have that. We also have that. There are 3 items being talked about, and that's why we are drawing 3 sets. So we have the universal there. So we have number of those with national IDs in the region, number of people with driving permits in that region. Then here we also have number of people with passports in that region. As we proceed, we look at the scenario where we have James reportedly interviewed 7 people in that region. So whichever thing we discover in the scenario, we represent it on the Venn diagram. So the 75 people being interviewed, it is actually the universal set. He found that 18 people did not have any of the documents. So we have 3 documents, national IDs, driving permits, and passports, but 18 do not have any. So we put them in any part outside the 3 sets. Then we proceed. 30 people had driving permits. So we locate where driving permits is. 30 people had driving permits, and we are placing it there because it is in general, driving permits. Then we have 20 people. 20 people had passports. It is also in general. So we have 20 people having passports. Then the next thing is the number of people who had both national identity cards and driving permits. The number of people who had national identity cards and driving permits only. This is the region. If at all we are talking about national identity cards and driving permits, it would be the whole of this region. And means intersection. National identity cards and driving permits. But we are adding the word only. National identity cards and driving permits only. That means that we are not putting this. In other words, we can use national identity cards and driving permits, but not passports. So when we go to this second part of the scenario, where it takes us that those who had passports and driving permits, but no national identity cards. So we locate those who had passports and driving permits, but no national identity cards. In actual sense, we are looking at those who had passports and driving permits only. And this region is this. If the question was, if the scenario was in general, telling us that those who had passports and driving permits, it means that we would take the whole of this region. But since we are saying passports and driving permits, but not national identity cards, this restricts us to this point here. So when we try to combine the two situations where we have the number of people who had both national identity cards and driving permits only, which is this, are twice those who had passports and driving permits only. So in actual sense, if this is X, this will be what? This will be 2X because of what is being stated. The number of those people who had national identity cards and driving permits were twice those who had driving permits and passports only. So this analysis tells us that these ones are twice these. And this can help us now proceed with our representation on a Venn diagram. So in this case, we are saying this is X, this is 2X, and when you look at the point where we have X and you relate it with the scenario, you realize that X is nowhere, so we have to define that variable. So the thing we shall come and say, let X represent the number of people, who had driving permits and passports. These driving permits and passports only. So that's what we have so far. So as we proceed with our scenario, it continues to tell us that 4 people had passports only. So when you look at this point here, we have passports. This is a set for passports. But once we say only, it means that these people should be having only passports without anything else. Once you put them here, they will be under passports, but they will have passports and national identity cards. So when you say passports only, in actual sense, we should put it there. Those are 4 with passports only. 3 people had all the 3 documents. So we have 3 people here across all the 3 documents. And then we have 12 people who had driving permits only. So we go to driving permits only, which is this, and then we put the 12 people. So James has a report about the number of people who had national identity cards, but is missing out some information. So when you look at this set, the way we have represented this Venn diagram, you realize that there are some areas where we don't have any information given. And our task now, we need to now find out the number of people who are here and those who are here. So let's progress. So to do so, we must first analyze. We move from known to unknown. And when we say from known to unknown, you realize that you cannot start from this point. You cannot start from the unknown. What will you be examining? So the best way will be that locate where we have a lot of known information. And that set will be this for driving permits. So in actual sense, the first thing we need to do is to analyze the driving permits, those people who had driving permits. And its analysis is that this is one set, and all the members that are the total, which is 30, are the members that fall under that set. So we shall add this plus this plus this plus that, and then equate to 30. So we have 2x plus 3 plus x plus 12 is equal to the total of those members that had driving permits. Once we add 2x to x, we shall have 3x plus. We have 3 plus 12, which will give us a 15. So our task here is to make x the subject, and therefore we shall take the 15 on the right-hand side, and this is done by subtracting 15 on both sides. So this 15 will cancel, we remain with 3x, is equal to 15, and therefore we divide both sides by a 3, remaining with x as, when we have 15 divided by 3, 15 can go into 3 can go into 15 5 times, leaving no remainder. So we shall have x as a 5. So this value of x is not necessarily what we need to find. Our task, we are looking for the number of people who obtained national identity cards. So we must be sure that we are moving from the known to the unknown. So the next thing is that, can we find any of the remaining unknowns? So we look at this point. When we look at this point, we have some information here. We have got the x, and then we can now look for something which is here. We can let it to be y. By letting this region to be y, we are looking now at, we can examine the set of passports. So we now analyze passports. Under passports, that set has these members inside it. So in actual sense, we are going to add everything and then equate to the total number of people who had passports. So we shall have y plus 3 plus x plus 4 is equal to 20. So we make sure that each and every value within that set contributes to the total of the set. So, but when you look at this x, it has already been obtained as a 5. So in actual sense, we shall have y plus 3 plus 5 plus 4 is equal to 20. So when we add 3 plus 5, we get 8. 8 plus 4, we get a 12. So we shall have y plus 12 is equal to 20. So we can now take the 12 the other side in order to make y the subject. So we shall subtract both sides by a 12. So our y will finally be an 8. So in other words, we have got this unknown and this unknown, so it means that we can head to that. But realize that finding the number of those people with national IDs will not be obtained in the same way as adding all these these people that belong to that have national IDs, because you'll be equating to something which you don't know. So this time round, you'll have to utilize the universal set. So as we want to find the number of those with national IDs, what we are going to do, we are going to let this be n. And when we try to add, because we have x and we have y, this has simplified the work here. But you can't add this with now a new unknown n and then equate to something here. You don't have this. This is what we are looking for. So the best way of getting the value of n is by utilizing the universal set. Therefore, we are going to add each individual item within this universal set and equate it to the 75 people who were interviewed. So what the restriction is, never add the values up and then equate to 75, because that will be a wrong interpretation. It will always give you something which exceeds the interviewed number. So you have to add these inside values that contribute to the universal. So in actual sense, we shall say n plus 2x, but now the x that we have is 5. So we put it there, 2 times 5 plus 12 plus y, and this time round the y is 8 plus 3 plus the x, which is 5, and then the other one is a 4 plus 18 is equal to the universal, which is actually 75. So when we add this, we are going to have n plus 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 12, 22. 22 plus 8, 30. 30 plus 3, that is 33, plus 5, 38, plus 4, 42, plus 18, 60. So this will give us n plus 60 is equal to 70, 75. So we need to find the value of n. So it will be n plus 60 minus 60 is equal to 75. minus 60. So we have n equaling to 15. So when you look at this 15, it is the number of those people with national IDs only. Yet task A, we need to respond to it. It wants the number of people who have national IDs. And when you want the number of people who have national IDs, this is the whole number, the whole set of those people with national IDs. And therefore, we shall say national IDs, national identity cards, which is the whole set, and it will be the n, which is 15, plus 2 times the 5, which is 2x, plus a 3, plus the y, which is actually 8. So in actual sense, we have to add all the contributants to the total. So this will be 15 plus 10 plus 11. And when we add 15 plus 10, it will give us 25 plus 11, which will lead to 36 people. And remember that whenever we are responding to a task, we need to give a conclusion. So therefore, we can write down our conclusion. So we can say therefore, 36 people had national identity cards. So we have fully responded to task A. Now, when you go back to our item number 3, task B is saying determine if there is need for a new office in the region, and then give a reason. But this takes us back to the scenario where we had James has been sent to a certain region to find out whether it is necessary to set up a new office for processing national IDs, driving permits, and passports. If the probability of a person having only one document is less than 50%. So in actual sense, we need to depend on that part of the scenario. So in actual sense, we need to get the number of those people with only one document. The number of people with only one document, we are now answering part B of the tasks. So, only one document. Some people are normally confused of when and where do we find only one document. To reflect that, we can look at these 3 sets. We have driving permits, sorry, we have national identity cards, driving permits, and passports. So when you look at only one document, I cannot go to this region here. Because this region here, it means that someone exhibits national identity cards and driving permits. The person has both. When you go here, the person has both national identity cards and passports. When you go into this, driving permits and passports, here, there are people with both driving permits and passports. So in actual sense, when you look at this third option, where we have this, it means that this person has all the 3 mentioned items or documents. The national IDs, the driving permit, and the passport. So the only space left is this. This is only one document. So where I've shaded, it implies that these people have a single document. Here, a person has a national ID without the other what? Documents. Here, a person has a driving permit without the other documents. Here, a person has a passport without the documents. That's why we are saying only one document. So once we look at only one document and we go back to our Venn diagram, only one document, we have a 12 plus a 4, we have plus 15. We have 12 plus 4 plus 15. And when we add this, this will be 16. 12 plus 4 is 16, and this is 15. It will give us 31 people. So these 31 people are the ones that actually exhibit only one document. But we don't depend on the people there, we depend on the probability. Those 31 are chosen from the 75 that were interviewed. So what we need to do is to get the probability, which is 31 of those 75 individuals that were interviewed. And from that, we shall realize that the probability is 0.4133. From this probability, we can get the percentage. The percentage is actually 0.4133 times 100, and therefore it will give us 41.33%. So, we ask ourselves, for the condition that is given in the scenario, that an office can be established if at all we have at least 50% of the people having what? Only one document. It means that we need to give a conclusion basing on the 50% that was mentioned in the scenario. So we shall say, therefore, an office is to be, or needs. I think the best word would be needs. An office needs to be established. Needs to be established in the region since the probability is 41.33%, which is less than 50%. Because we say that if at all it is at least 50%, then we don't need to establish an office. It means that the number of people who have the documents, who have at least one document, are there. But this time round, you realize that those with one document are below average. It means that an office needs to be set up to improve or to make sure that those people in the region improve on these documents. So that the aim of this is to make sure that majority of the regional members gain the passports, driving permits, and national IDs. Thank you for watching. You can like, comment, and then subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, for more information and more materials, the notes for the new curriculum, every subject is there at the app on Play Store, which is KTD. Go there, put KTD there, download the app, and enjoy the games that are there. Enjoy the materials that are there so that learning can go on to improve yourself as a 21st century learner. Thank you.